because I had so many people inquire like about bookkeeping that I really have spent like the past 2 weeks, like just really making my systems. And what happens is that, you're thinking like, this system isn't making me money right now. So it's hard to like put time into it. But you know that like, if you take the time to figure out the system, then it makes everything else like run smoother in the future. And so I stopped taking clients just so I can like make sure that I have all my systems. So in 2020, it's like my next client, it's like a really smooth process. I've worked all my kinks out and they're going to get the best possible service.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a fun one. Our guest is a bookkeeper for creatives who owns, wait, what? Consulting based in Wilmington, North Carolina. Alisha Thomas, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hello. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today, and I'm really excited about this episode because of just some of the things I'm seeing on your website, the fact that you're just getting started, the fact that you only work with creatives, the fact that you found the Successful Bookkeeper in while you're sitting in an airport, so much. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about your journey leading up to this point, Alisha.
Yeah, I would assume it's very different than most bookkeepers. I went to school for art. I have a formal degree in art and design, and all I ever thought I would do was fashion and design. In college and after college, I worked in a costume shop. I've always sewn and screen printed. And in 2011, my life focus kind of changed. I was helping some friends pack up packages for a Kickstarter. If you don't know what a Kickstarter is, it's a fundraising platform for like products and businesses, and their business was Freaker USA. And if you Google it, it's Freaker USA. And we made these knit bottle inflators. They're like a koozie, except it could fit on a Gatorade bottle because they stretch to fit anything. So it could fit a large water bottle, a small water bottle, and they come in all these like crazy designs. And the owner is super eccentric, and all of the other team were creatives. No one went to business school, and no one knew anything about bookkeeping, including myself. And, I was just helping out. And then eventually I kind of, you just keep helping. And then it becomes like, like I got to help this thing go. I got to help them. And then I was just like, gosh, you guys have a lot of bills here on this desk and a lot of checks that you need to deposit. I'm like, there's got to be some sort of system for organizing this. And from then on, I took care of all of our finances and operations. And then I became part owner of the company. So that was like 2011. So along the way, I had a lot of magical CPAs that would teach me accounting and best practices. I had a CPA that would sit with me on Saturdays for like 4 or 5 hours and just teach me bookkeeping. And she was so great about explaining like why we were doing it and like how things connected. And so I learned, basically everything from her. And so as we grew the company, we dealt with a lot of inventory. We had a ton of SKUs. I did HR. I helped manage people and cash flow. Eventually, the founder went on Shark Tank.
I saw this episode. I was wondering. I wonder if it's the same. Yeah. Okay. Go on. Yeah.
Yep, that's the same one. Yeah. So Shark Tank actually contacted us, which was so crazy because we were like, oh, we don't want to do that. Like, especially it's like a creative business, and you're just like, I don't want to. It just seemed too businessy, but they contacted us and we were like, yeah, we'll do it. So Zach went out there and did it. And I mean, it's so funny because I'd never even seen Shark Tank before that. And so it really propelled the business. And so then we're in Target and Bed Bath & Beyond and Walmart and thousands of other retailers. And so I mean, it really blew up after that. And then eventually we got like an accounting like an outsourced CFO, and we got like, because I started doing more operational things. Yeah. And so then in 2016, I really needed to change. Like Freaker was my life, and I would, I did whatever I could to keep it going. My husband worked there, and I just really needed a change. So I sold my shares and I left the company, and I started doing what I always have done is sew. So I started a leather accessories company called Ruby Asada, which I still have. I have a website, and my bags are all like bright colors, a lot of pink, and I designed the lining that goes inside of them. So meanwhile, I'm, building this like leather accessories company, and I have a lot of friends who are creatives, and I have a lot more time on my hands now. So I would sit with them, and they would tell me things like, I don't have a separate bank account for my business. And I was like, wait, what? And hence where the name came from. But I just didn't realize, I guess, because I just had been doing and running, a business for so many years, I just like didn't realize that like they didn't know how to do like bookkeeping. And so, here and there I'd be like, okay, I'll help you. And so for the past 2 years, I was kind of secretly doing bookkeeping, and I would do it just for photographers and designers and stylists. And then earlier this year, I was like, people would ask me about it, and I'd be like, yeah, I do bookkeeping, but I didn't really have like a forward facing thing. And I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I want it to be like me, and I want it to be like representing like who I want to attract. So I made Wait What, like a website, but I actually hired like a whole design team. So I got like an agency, Drew and Kate here in Wilmington. They did my art direction and my photos and my website and my photography and my social media. And then I had a graphic designer from Fred and Mina do my logo. And I just really wanted it to be like, really designed and really like me.
Wow. I'm really I'm really impressed. I learned a ton, and I really am I'm inspired, like just for our businesses, right? I'm inspired by your Instagram and your website, the way it looks, and it's great. I'd actually like to have a conversation with the company that you worked with. I mean, it's just like such a great job that they've done.
Drew and Kate, it's at the bottom of my website. It probably says website designed by Drew and Kate, but their main focus, I think, is so cool that they're doing is like, it really is like on and like highlighting the person behind the small business. So it's like, they've done a lot of different people, but it's just, if you are an interior designer, it's like really bringing you out. So that like, I just like they do such a good job of just not like branding the company, but branding the people behind the company. And I just think it's like, it's just what everybody wants to like know who's behind it, and they just really do a great job.
There's something called synchronicity, and I was literally having a conversation with one of our clients, and she was at a conference, and it was a zero person on the zero marketing team, and they were saying, bring out you in your marketing. It's like it's going to another level, and also it's an easy thing to say, but to do it eloquently is another thing. And so just like you said, right? It's like, hey, here's all my cat pictures. I really am into cats, and that's it. I mean, that's too much, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you bring, and I'm just at their website, let's bring your brand to life, right? I love it. So fantastic.
Yeah, they also, the other thing that's, obviously like whenever I had my photos taken, like I went and had like makeup done and hair done. And like, I don't normally, do that. And they have a lot of great content too, but they were saying like, I know it seems silly that you're like getting your hair and makeup done, but I promise you're going to feel more confident like behind that camera than if you didn't. And it really made it to where I feel more it sounds crazy, but like I feel more comfortable like sharing photos because it feels like it's professional. It's like, it was like purposeful. It wasn't just like a picture and like, I took of myself with my phone. It feels like this is the brand. This is the branding. This is part of the company. And so I feel more comfortable sharing those photos of myself than I would even on like my personal Instagram,
It says a lot. I mean, it's great
really
advice.
That.
Yeah, it's great advice. And people say dress for success, right? This is the essence of what that old statement was, right?
Yeah, Drew is the stylist, and she picked out my clothes. I mean, I did make that money shirt. because, I sew. But Drew was like, what if we did a money sign on your shirt? And I love the fact that she thought of that. So like every photo of me is like me wearing a white shirt with that dollar sign. And so it's like immediately, I'm going to talk about money and I'm going to talk about finance. And, they just think of like those cool things. And
yeah, that's creative.
I had a great experience with it. Yeah.
That was the thing that really struck me when I went to your website, is that it's very different from everything that I've seen. And I thought to myself, this person is really, I felt like you were really bringing out you. You were blending in who you are. And I didn't know your story at all. I didn't even read any of the stuff on the page. That I often do that. I just look at the thing first when it's appealing. Yeah. And that's an interesting perception, right? It's a really graphically appealing. It's like looking at cupcakes, really.
Yeah.
Great cupcakes. And so I just looked at it, was like pleasing to the eye. And then as I started to read it, I got more of your story, and I got like, wow, you work with creatives, and what brand congruency here and consistency is like you're not working with creatives and having not a creative business, right? So I really love that, and it's fantastic. And for sure, every listener must go and have a look at what you've done. And you really went into it you hired all the pros.
Yeah. So like I know how to do graphic design, like Illustrator and Photoshop. And not like at the level that they do, but I just really knew that like I want to spend my time like where I already had clients at that point. So like I just want to like focus on that. And so I want someone else to take this off my plate. And also it was so great. Like I would just recommend, I tell everyone, I'm just like, even if you think like, well, I kind of know how to make a website, like it was so great to outsource all of that. And they just like really made all my, they just made it exactly what I had in my mind, which was super cool.
It's fantastic. Beautiful looking website. And it brings up a question that I actually had was, it was very easy to get to your social media profile, particularly Instagram, and just the way that you're actually posting on Instagram right now is very professional. It's very brand consistent. And I think it's a great demonstration of how you can bring value to an audience with what's bookkeeping all about. You're taking people on a journey about bookkeeping and helping educate them and give tidbits of business knowledge. And my question was like, geez, are you doing all of that? But you answered that question. You have an agency that's helping you with it.
I do my whole Instagram, but they basically, what they did though, is that they gave me like the grid. Like they were like, okay, this is like, we're going to give you all these photos, and then we're going to say like, this is kind of like the templates, you know what I mean? Like this is, so then I'm just kind of like filling in like all of this. So like I write all this stuff, but they helped me do like, it's called your 9 grid. So it's like the first 9 on your Instagram. So they helped me, Drew and Kate helped me like kind of get that. So then it's really great for me because I just kind of take what they told me and then I just like keep going with it, And so it's been really great. But I was thinking about this, I'm probably the only bookkeeper that gets most of our clients from Instagram. Like I spend so much time just talking to creatives on Instagram, and people will DM me and just ask me questions of like, do you think I should get, QuickBooks over Xero or whatever? And so it's a really cool place to connect to people that I think that like other bookkeepers aren't, in Instagram world.
Well, there's a couple of questions that come up. I don't want to forget about the 9 grid because I think that's a good learning for some of our listeners. But what's cool is that, and I think we need to make this point, is that if you're going to do any marketing, if you're going to do any outreach, if you're going to get in front of your customers, you got to ask yourself, where are your customers hanging out? And so a lot of people are on Instagram, but definitely creatives are on Instagram. And so you're actually putting out messages where your people, your tribe, we'll say,
for sure.
right, are hanging out. And you're doing it in a way that's going to really drive with them and make that connection. There's the golden 3 is know, like, and trust. And so if you are getting out there and it's like, gee, this person is acting like me, then definitely they're going to, they get to know you, then they're going to think, they're going to like you. And then that leads to trust, right? And relationships, and you're building and nurturing those online. It's not that everybody should all of a sudden say, oh my goodness, I need to go and get my 9 grid done. And, and do go on Instagram and I'll get a bunch of clients. You've got to be all in. And also, does it jive with who's hanging out on Instagram and participating in Instagram? So it's not for everybody, but it could be for many. But you're really a good demonstration of how to do it right. So well done on that. And the 9 grid, tell us about the 9 grid. Like, I get it now because I go to your Instagram and I see these beautiful 9 layout and it all looks great. And do you have control over how to?
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't take all this. Drew and Kate really like show me all, tell me. I mean, I have another Instagram and I love Instagram, like as a person, and my handbag company, like I love it. But then they really showed me the like business perspective, and you kind of have to look at Instagram as like your website. And so your 9 is the first 9 they'll see. So you want to make sure that in the first 9, like on any given, if you're scrolling on any 9 squares, that you can see like exactly what you do. And you want to get across like, so if they look at it, they can see that like I'm posting something about finance or bookkeeping or small business, and like, so they'll immediately know what I do. So like, I mean, a good example would be like if you do bookkeeping and then it's like pictures of your kids and your cats, like they're not going to know that's what you do, so you want to make sure that like in every 9 pictures that it's like, you're reiterating like what you're doing.
Gotcha. And so that's really interesting. And you can see your 9 grids looking fantastic and all brand consistent and great messages. Have you paid your sales tax yet? What is reconciling a bank account and why am I paying someone to do that? This is if a small business owner you're speaking into their pains and their challenges and their who you call in a 1099. Like this is great. It's you're creating conversations and I went and clicked in a few and you're getting great engagement. Certainly not your first rodeo. You've been in this space and I don't want to make anybody feel like, hey, oh geez, she's way ahead.
Yeah.
Like you've walked a long walk here to get to where you are today. But I think that's part of the beauty of business is that don't try and reinvent the wheel. Go and look and see how and don't copy, but go and look and be inspired to bring yourself into your business in a consistent way, in a way that's going to be really attractive to who you want to deal with.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that is kind of like, I did do all of my marketing up front and make sure that all this is aligned, because who I'm trying to attract are people that care about visual aesthetics. And so I have a lot of clients that are photographers. So it's like, they're on Instagram because they like visual things. I want to align with that. So, maybe if you're doing bookkeeping for, manufacturing or something, that maybe someone that isn't necessarily a visual field, it's not as important. But for me, it was like the most important. And also it's really fun. Like I have a good time coming up with like silly things to say. So
beautiful. Well, that just comes across great. And where do you see, I'd be interested, like you're relatively new into your own business, right? You are a startup, right? What has that journey been like to this point?
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting because with Wait What and with bookkeeping, and it sounds bad. It's just been really easy. It's been really easy to figure out. I have a lot of systems and a lot of spreadsheets and a lot of systems of how I organize like all my clients. And like, I really set it up to where like to grow. Like I want this to grow bigger than just me. And just because I feel like there's so many creatives out there that I can help, and so many, every time I see a Shopify site or like, a new jewelry line or I'm like, I wonder if they have a bookkeeper. And you just know that I don't know. I think it's because I'm always looking for like new artists and new things like that. So I'm always seeing it. And so I would love to grow it larger than it is. And I am always kind of thinking like I need to do this in a way that like someone else can come in. So I've been trying to set everything up for that. And the other thing is that whenever I launched the website, which was only like probably 2 months ago, I'm waitlisting for 2020 clients now because I'm 2 booked, which is great. But I also just didn't expect that to happen so fast. So I'm trying to fast track like all of my systems. And so for 2020 that I can like get some help and, and also like I'm excited to like show someone else how to do bookkeeping. And I also think that like that's been Like at Freaker, I had several other bookkeepers that I hired that I showed how to do accounting. And yeah, so I think that like that's going to be fun for me too, is to just show someone else that they can do it. I love teaching creatives that they can do it, that like they can understand numbers, that it's not creep. Like we can do this. And like I love just like breaking it down for them. And I'm hoping I can just like continue to do that.
It's beautiful. You know, I really hear you have certain passions that you're very clear about, helping other people, helping the people you serve, but also helping the community that you serve from, which is bookkeeping and accounting, and passing on the knowledge. You were mentored by some really great people, and now you're excited and passionate about passing that on. And by doing that and on the journey, building your own really great company, all on the back of systems driven. And we love that. And we talk about it all the time. Solve a problem with a system. And you really can't scale a business unless you've built systems and process into your business, and that it's repeatable, it's scalable, and that it's documented so that somebody else can actually go and do that work. It makes it easier for everyone. So congrats on actually taking the time and doing that work.
Yeah. And I mean, I really owe it to, I think I posted this on Instagram. Maybe I did it this week. I can't remember. But a CPA told me, she was like, you need to do all of this as if you're going to get hit by a bus tomorrow. And I was like, what? And she was like, all of this needs to be, and in order to where like, if you can't come into work, like someone, you know, like someone else could pick up and do this. And like, that always just really stuck with me, that like, I need to make sure that everything is clear as possible, is like, this is how we onboard a client. And, you know, and I just, as I've been building Wait What, I've been doing it as if someone's going to come in. It makes sense to everyone. And it's not just like on an envelope over here of how I do it. And I try to be really consistent with all my onboarding. And I really do owe it to a CPA saying that to me years ago.
That's great advice. And I have many people ask me, well, I'm only a solo. Why would I need to have systems and process? It's just me. And getting hit by the bus is not the one I typically bring up, but it's what I think, but I don't necessarily say that because like, I don't want anybody to get hit by a bus, including myself.
No, for sure.
Right?
No way.
But it's good. And it's exactly right. But as well, when you do it, you actually create efficiencies. And for one person, they're not as impactful, perhaps, if you have 10 people and you created, you duplicated one efficiency across 10, well, that equals 10 efficiencies. There's a magnitude, right? And yet those little efficiencies, what people often forget is that, well, it's not typically one efficiency. It's not one improvement. It's a minute, it's 2 minutes, it's 10 minutes. It's, those add up over time, over the month. And where those efficiencies typically land is better sleep at night, and also time and energy to spend with family and friends, and also working on their business so that they have the energy to do that. So it's a place to remove the chaos. So, whether you want to sell your business or not, build it to sell it. Because when you do that, actually that was one of the posts that, I think it was that post you were talking about the CPA, and, build it so that someone could buy it, because that means everything's been documented. They could walk in and understand where things are at, where everything is put. And that will be a more valuable business and a more enjoyable business.
For sure. And because I had so many people inquire about bookkeeping, that I really have spent the past 2 weeks, just really making my systems. And what happens is that, you're thinking this system isn't making me money right now. So it's hard to put time into it. But that if you take the time to figure out the system, then it makes everything else run smoother in the future. And so I stopped taking clients just so I can make sure that I have all my systems. So in 2020, it's my next client, it's a really smooth process. I've worked all my kinks out, and they're going to get the best possible service.
Beautiful. It makes me so happy to hear you doing it. It's a lot of work. I know it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
That's what I do in my other life as the CEO of Pure Bookkeeping, is we build systems and process for bookkeeping firms. And it is a heck of a lot of work, but it's a joy to see people be able to come in and use those systems and processes to give themselves space to be able to grow and scale their business. Everybody can do it though. And it's not even with Pure Bookkeeping, when we provide those systems and processes, it's still a lot of work to implement it. And it's continually work to improve them and make them better and understand them. But that is business. And there's a big, big payoff when you do the work and you're on the right track, because you're sitting there and you're saying, well, this is a lot of work and you're not really getting the benefit of it yet, but you know what the end looks like. And you've seen it in your other businesses. And it just really is. There's just clearly if people want to improve their business, the place to start is the foundation of better systems and process and documentation so that you can do a better job and deliver on the promises that you make to your clients. Because you're actually turning people away, because you probably deep down know that you want to make sure you're able to deliver on your promise. And many people cannot. Definitely. Many bookkeepers cannot, because they take on too many clients. They take on the wrong clients, and they end up just stressing themselves out, putting it all on their shoulders. And that's just a really difficult way to live. You're doing a lot of things right. So I think it's good.
I've learned the hard way. I think that it's also, even though it doesn't feel like corporate life, but Freaker became a larger corporation. So it was really stressful. And I did wake up and email and go to sleep emailing. And I grinded hard. And now I'm really building so where I'm really trying to never work on Fridays. I'm trying to make time to spend time with family and build it in. And I'm hoping that, and that's definitely where my systems come in, that it's a very systematic way of doing things so that I can add on more clients and feel good about the growth. And and also the big thing about systems and efficiencies is, for me too, is the client knowing what's happening and what's happening next. And especially with creatives, because I feel like they're very foreign to how this works or what it's going to be like. And so I really want to guide them through how we onboard and what I'm going to need from you. And then I like to send them branded monthly emails after I have all the information, where I'm this is your report for the month. And I like it to be consistent. And I say around the 5th of the month, I'll send questions. Around the 15th of the month, I'll send this. And then so they know what to expect. And then when they get it, it feels like I'm delivering on what I said, because I've set up the system, an automated email system of the monthly report. So
beautiful.
I think that's another important thing, is just making sure that they know, your client knows what's happening, so that they feel especially with bookkeeping, I feel like sometimes people don't even understand what it is or why you have someone do it. So you really have to tell them that. Today I posted a thing of why am I paying someone to reconcile my bank accounts, and what's reconcile? And, and so just telling them why this is important.
I love it. It's the customer journey. It starts with when you first meet them right through to the end, and you're putting systems and process in all along the way. It brings up a question of your tech stack. What types of apps are you using, and what are you seeing as being valuable to yourself and your business as you get started?
So I use QuickBooks. I'm a QuickBooks certified, whatever it's called, online person. And so
I'm a QuickBooks certified, whatever you call it. I love it.
But I tried to use the QuickBooks workflow. I tried to use that, but I couldn't. It's I couldn't stick with it. And then if I missed one, it would just backlog. And so I've reverted to, this is going to sound crazy, but I just use Excel, and I use an Excel with all of my clients. And then I just have a checklist for each thing that happens with the client checklist. And so I do that. And I also, the major thing for me with QuickBooks is the auto categorizing. I go through and spend so much time auto categorizing anything that's about photographers. It's Adobe Lightroom every month. So that I'm really limiting my time in your books for only things that are for all of that. If people aren't using that auto categories and add feature, that's I think that's one of the greatest things QuickBooks has ever done. And then I use a lot of integrations with Gusto for payroll or Shopify integrations. I also use MailChimp, which I'm sure no one else probably does this, but I deliver all of my emails, my monthly emails through MailChimp, so they can be branded, and so that everything is always the same way every month. So they know that this was my sales, these were my expenses. And I usually leave a note of hey, you're doing 25% better than last September, great job. Or, your expenses were a little high this month. or whatever. And then I use Dropbox to link stuff, and I keep everything in there. So when you use MailChimp to like send emails, it's a template. So it'll say like, view your P&L here, and I drop the P&L in Dropbox, but it's connected to their Dropbox. So it's not like I'm attaching it to an email every month. Like, it's always connected. And
Wonderful.
So that has been the way I've been doing it. I don't know if anyone else does it like that, but it's a way for branding for me, which is important. And I love it's already in Dropbox, so it's linked in there. So it's the time though of making the template for each new client. But then once it's in there, it's in there and linked.
Wonderful. Well, I think people listening, there's going to be pieces that they're doing it the way you're doing it, and there's going to be many pieces that they're doing it completely different. If we had 10 bookkeepers in the room, we'd have 10 different ways, maybe 11 different ways of doing it, and that speaks to systems, that speaks to tech, all that. But I think it's interesting, and the one thing I heard there was spreadsheets, right? I think in this day and age, many people are beat up the good old-fashioned Excel spreadsheet, which has been a staple of business since computers were around.
Yeah.
And you're using it. We have many people in our community that use checklists that are based in Excel, and that's how they run their system, and it works for them. And so I think that maybe few people are breathing a sigh of relief. It's like, oh, I'm not a bad person because I'm doing it. Now,
I'm actually I use Excel, but I also use Google. I use Google Sheets. Like,
yes, right.
Everything is Google Sheets. Yeah. And I mean, I love that. I also share with my clients. I send them this is what I do for a lot of my clients. If I have a client's name and what is this, where I copy things from QuickBooks and I just say like, hey, what is this? And is this, in the creative world, I have a lot of people that are putting their personal expenses in their business. And I'm always just like, this seems like soccer. This is a piano lesson. But, I need to confirm that it's not something else. And so I send Google Sheets to them, and that way we can both see them and both work on the same Google Sheets. And and it's easy for them. Like, I don't want to send a client an Excel sheet and then them have to open the Excel sheet and then send it back to me, because creatives, there was a lady I do books for, and she was just like, I am not opening an Excel sheet. And I said, okay, cool. That's not how it works then. And so Google Sheets is kind of like that in between. I feel like for people who don't use Excel, it's nice.
That's right. You in this day and age, we need online collaborative tools. And I know that there's a lot of people talking about OneDrive and the Microsoft suite and the collaboration that's happening there. I think Microsoft was really behind on all of that. And so, we kind of go, well, that's, so who knows? And I honestly, I'm a Google Sheets person myself. I use a ton of it. I use lots of different tools, but everybody is different and they use different things. And this is why I love these kind of conversations. I love to open up people's train of thought. And I guarantee you're on your journey and you're going to learn new things from the community. We have a global community of bookkeepers, and we're just constantly sharing what's working, what's not working. And I think that's you're always open. You're a person that's very open to change, what will be next here and there. And workflow is interesting. There's a lot of work in workflow software like Jetpack Workflow. We have a lot of people in Pure Bookkeeping who love Jetpack Workflow. Carbon HQ, Arrow is another workflow software. There's lots out there.
People. I think it's also one of those things too that I understand that it just becomes one of those things like, this is work to like learn this new thing. So then you just get discouraged. And I do as well, but eventually I also use Slack a lot too, but eventually I would like to try to maybe use something like Asana or something like that. But
there's many. Right now, what you're doing is working, and I don't think there should be any pressure to do it any other way. If it's working right now and establishing your business and getting your systems and process down, it sounds great. And thank you for sharing some of the things that you're working on and the ideas that you're working through and developing. This has been fantastic. I'm looking at the time and it just went like a flash. I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to have you back on the show at some point to hear how the next leg of the journey has looked and what the things that you've gotten up to. Yeah. Yes.
I love talking about business and I love systems and I also love design and art. So I love doing all of it. So I would love to.
Beautiful. Well, congratulations on building a business that you love.
Thanks.
That is, and on behalf of all of our listeners, thank you for your generosity and sharing what you're working on and how you're doing things. It says a lot about you, and I know they're probably sitting in their cars or tapping away doing work, saying, "Gee, that was cool. That was refreshing."
I'm so glad.
Yeah, it's what it's all about. So again, thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. And as well, I'd like to mention, if you found this episode valuable, please let other people know about it. Share about it on Google, share about it on Facebook, put it on the podcast, wherever you can. Let's help get the word out about these podcasts and help us keep doing this great work for you. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.